Welcome to the latest edition of Spooky News from Spooky Ventures. This is our July 14th, 2023 edition. I don't know about you, but once we get past the 4th of July, I feel like we're heading into spooky season proper. I know I always say spooky isn't a season, it's a lifestyle, and I do believe that. But still, it's like something changes after that holiday, and it feels like we're beginning the coast toward Halloween. The days are getting a little bit shorter as each date drops off the calendar, and it just feels like we've turned the corner into the better part of the year. Certainly, we're starting to see articles and announcements about the Halloween season, which for me translates into more spooky news items. Now, as always, before I get to the news, I have a couple of announcements. First, remember, if you want any more information on any of the things I talk about here, the source URLs are included two places. One is the description section of this video. The other is the end of the video. Once I'm done talking, I bet you can't wait for that to happen, right? You will see that I include all the URLs at the end. So be sure to hang around for that. Again, I won't be talking by that point, so that's a bonus. Next, remember that all things Spooky Ventures, but especially this YouTube channel, are supposed to be interactive. So please interact by liking our videos, sharing them, and commenting on them. And if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to this channel. Also, with spooky season nearly upon us, it seems a good time to remind everyone that you can find Spooky Ventures merchandise at cafepress.com/spookyventures. Or if you go to spookyventures.com, there are some examples of the items we have available, along with links to buy them. You can get all your Keep It Spooky gear in time for spooky season to really get going. Now, with all that out of the way, let's get to the news. First up, let's talk about monster cereals. You know what I'm talking about, right? Frankenberry, Boo Berry, Count Chocula, and the others. Well, every year they come out with fresh packaging going into spooky season. Last year, they revived one of their older cereals, Fruit Brute. This year is going to be really special, though. That's because not only are the three standards getting new boxes, and Fruit Brute is coming around again, but they're bringing back another older cereal from the Monster gang, Yummy Mummy. But that's not all. They are also bringing out a brand new cereal with a new character. Carmela Creeper is the character, and the cereal is going to be Caramel Apple. And besides that, they will also have a Monster Mash remix cereal, which will have all 6 flavors included. I'm a big Monsters cereals fan, and I think this is great news. Now, from the grocery store, let's move to the bookstore. For fans of Robert Bloch, and particularly Psycho, there's a great new edition of the book coming out. For those who don't know, Robert Bloch was not only the author of the book that Hitchcock adapted into the classic film, but he was also part of H.P. Lovecraft's Lovecraft Circle. He wrote a lot of television episodes too, including 2 for Star Trek. This new version of Psycho comes from Suntup Editions. Now, you might remember I talked about that some new editions of the Amityville Horror they're publishing. I talked about that either last month's edition or the one before. I can't really remember. But this new edition of Psycho is absolutely gorgeous. You'll be able to see that in the pics I'm going to be including in this video. It's a limited run of just 750 copies, and they are currently available for pre-order. Now, I mentioned that Bloch wrote a couple of episodes for Star Trek. Well, that ties into my next piece of news. There's a new limited edition Star Trek comic book series coming out that should appeal to horror fans. Titled Star Trek Halloween, or Holoween, sorry, the 4-issue run starts in October. The description says that in the comic, the Next Generation crew celebrate Halloween on the holodeck, But what is supposed to be an entertaining diversion turns into something else when, as the description puts it, quote, fear is in season when crew members begin to go missing one by one. Speaking of horror comic books, if you can still get it, you might want to think about picking up issue number 1 of The Incredible Hulk. And I'm talking about the new run from Marvel Comics. I read that it was very much a horror-oriented issue, so I picked up a copy and gave it a read. Let me tell you that they were not joking around about that horror aspect. In many ways, the art and general vibe called to mind the old school horror comic books like the old EC stuff. Additionally, there's a real Lovecraftian cosmic horror feeling to the whole story. I mean, it's still the Hulk, but it's also very horror comic oriented. They released it with a number of alternate covers, and hopefully you can still find a copy in your local comic book shop. Now, speaking of comic book stores, by the time you watch this video, issue 1 of the new Svengoolie Lost in Time comic book should be available in stores. It was initially supposed to be released in May, but that date was pushed to June, and at the time I'm writing this, the release date is set as July 12th. Now that one has 2 alternate covers. It finds horror host Svengoolie in a brand new comic book adventure. Sven fanatic that I am, so yeah, I'm even wearing the hat. I can't wait to read that one. Next up, let's talk about Weird Tales. The magazine is probably best known for featuring stories by such giants as the aforementioned H.P. Lovecraft, Ray Bradbury, Isaac Asimov, and many, many more. Well, the first issues were published 100 years ago, and to commemorate that milestone, there will be a new illustrated book hitting shelves this October. It's going to be called Weird Tales, 100 Years of Weird. It includes new and classic stories, flash fiction, essays, and poems from the giants of speculative fiction, and it features cosmic horror and a lot of other kinds of weird fiction. It also has color and black and white illustrations. While it won't be out until October, you can pre-order it now. From books, let's move onto a travel idea. If you're a Ghostbusters fan and are either planning to be or could be in New York City this September or October, you should look into a great opportunity. That's because the people who run the New Jersey Ecto-1 replica are going to be doing tours of Ghostbusters locations in New York. You'll be taken to all of the destinations on the tour in Ecto-1. And I believe the guides are going to be in Ghostbusters gear. Obviously, there will be a limited number of tours, so if I were you, I'd see about getting yours lined up as quickly as possible. Next, we'll turn to film projects. Have you heard of Body Count? How about Malvolia? If you watch my review videos, you should know about Malvolia. That's because a movie I recently reviewed, Summer House Slaughter, features the horror host queen in segments on it. Well, Jen Nangle, who plays Malvolia, has been working on a new ambitious project. It includes 5 separate horror tales with a wraparound story connecting all of them. Nangle is playing every single villain in the stories, but she's joined by a lot of other talented folks. That said, she also wrote, produced, and handled editing on the project. Principal filming has wrapped on the show, and a trailer will be dropping any day now. I say that at the time I'm writing this, a few days before it will be published. It's possible that by the time you watch this video, the trailer will be out, as it is said to be coming in mid-July. Now, I've been following Jen Nangle since I saw her in Amityville Karen, which, in case you missed it, I also reviewed. So I'm looking forward to this project. You can tell she's committed to horror, and in the horror community, that really does mean a lot. Next up, let's talk John Carpenter. Just as I'm always very upfront for my love of all things Rich Koz and Svengoolie, the fact that Carpenter is my favorite director shouldn't be any surprise to anybody who follows anything I talk about. Now, I'm a fan of just about everything that man has ever done, including a number of films that often get panned, Ghost of Mars, for instance. So I'm pretty excited to hear that he stepped back into the director's chair for the first time, other than a few music videos, since 2010. Of course, this time around, the director's chair is a virtual one because he did the job remotely from his home. The show he directed is a new TV series called John Carpenter's Suburban Screams. I haven't been able to find out when or where the series will be shown, but it's just great to know that we're actually getting something new from Carpenter as a director. Of course, there's also the fact that when he mentioned that series, he also hinted that there's a sequel to his classic The Thing in the works. But now on that one, he said he's sworn to secrecy on the details. For me, that could also be great news because I love that movie. It really is a classic. Well, that brings us to the end of the news items for this week. As always, I'm not quite done talking yet. Sorry, you just have to sit through a little more before the torture ends. As always, I want to remind you to stick around at the end for the source URLs for these news items. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, and I always go over some dates on the spooky calendar at the end of these segments. You can find our spooky calendar at spookyventures.com. Just scroll down and you'll see the link for it. On that calendar, we list dates that should be of interest to people who are into all things spooky, or as I call us, the Spooky Tribe. First, there's a special event next Wednesday, the 19th. It is the original Terrifier movie coming to theaters. I think it's just a one-day event, but I'm not sure. I get the movie dates from Fandango, and there is often less detail than I would like. But I do know that it's going to be there on the 19th. On the 21st, Cobwebs and also Natty Knocks both open. Monday, July 24th is legendary horror author Lord Dunsany's birthday. The movie Talk to Me opens the following Friday, the 28th. August 1st is M.R. James' birthday, and the following day is Wes Craven's. Well, that's it for this time. I should be back sometime next month for more spooky news. In the meantime, remember, spooky is a lifestyle, not a season, and always keep it spooky. Spooky Ventures is the home for spooky content and spooky merchandise on the web. Check it out today at spookyventures.com. And remember, always keep it spooky.